Joseph Craig here. Welcome to my storybook. Today, a part 11 in this book called Dog Whisper, The Rescue. Last night I have read chapter 19 and 20 in this book. Now, today I'll be reading chapter 21 and chapter 22 in this book. Chapter 21. As they walk down the dark road that amber alone presentation, stopping every so often to snip at bushes and flowers, and once a total, he was sunning herself in the middle of the street. Her dog looked up at her with alarm, and once again she wasn't sure if he was picturing cars racing down the road in a cloud of dust and putting the total in danger, or she was. Either way, that's what she immediately thought. Stay here for a minute, she said to Zach. Okay. Then she bent down and picked up the toy, which was much heavier than she had said. It was also awful playing with Perla. The way legs and head moved, but it didn't try to bite her as she carried it well off the road into the woods. She decided that the best place would be near a small stream, but behind some big rocks that the turtle might not be willing to climb over to get back to the road. Then she returned to where Zach was waiting and he waggled his tail. It seems like he was pleased with her for making sure that the turtle would be safe, but also he might just be waggling his tail. Dogs did that. After all, she was just going to have to start accepting the fact that they seemed to be able to understand each other so well and enjoy it. Instead of overanalyzing, everything slowed down when they got near Miss Griswold's house, because she would still must rather turn around and go home. Then she saw that Miss Griswold was sitting in a rocking chair on her porch, pretty close to the exact way she had imagined it. Pretty close, and she felt a little sick to her stomach. But luckily, the neighbors seemed to be totally involved with reading a newspaper, so maybe they could walk right on by without being noticed, and Zach would be satisfied that she had made the effort. But Zach stopped and barked a friendly little bark and spoiled that plan. Miss Griswold looked up for her newspaper. I'm sorry, Emily said quickly. I didn't expect him to do that. He's usually very quiet. Miss Griswold pursed her lips. Don't get all that tizzy, she said after a pause. And usually he was just being neighborly. Oh, have Miss Griswold just set the wall in neighborly. Hmm, yeah, Emily said. I think he was just saying hi. It is, is it good for him to walk so much every day? All broke up like that? Miss Griswold asked. Miss Griswold asked, it seemed to me that you're working him too hard. Was she being accused of being a bad owner? Emily reached down to rest her hand on Zach's head protectively. We don't get very far. Our vet said that he was really smart, and I should pretty much let him, you know, follow his own instincts. But he needs to get his exercise to have his lungs heal. Miss Griswold nodded, although her expression was still pretty critical. Is he hungry? He looked hungry. It was a safe bet, since he was pretty much always hungry. They weren't supposed to overfeed him, but sometimes it was temporary. Probably, Emily said. I guess it'll take him home, and well, it don't work. It won't do not to keep him fed. Miss Griswold said, sounding very still. It looks like he's starving. Did Miss Griswold think that they wouldn't taking care of him? Emily further, he just think he had lunch right before we went out. But Zach was stretching his head over the gate and stepping excessively. I don't want him in my yard running you really nearly and making a jungle of my flowers. Miss Griswold said, her voice rising. You be sure and always keep him on the leash. You hear me? Emily nodded and tightening her grip on the little leg. Yes, ma'am. I mean, no, ma'am. I mean, I stopped, not quite sure what she meant. Well, this is, don't wimble like a ninny, Miss Griswold said impatiently. I he'll tell you, I he'll tell that you're a right smart girl. Act like it. Emily couldn't think of a response to that which probably don't look very smart at all. Very smart at all. And why is the animal staring at me so? Miss Griswold asked. Emily wasn't sure herself, but she finally assessed Gris until she located on an old white china plate on the table next to Miss Griswold's chair, which seems to have a small snack of celery spilled across it. Crackles, naturally. I'm sorry, Emily said. I think he's looking at little crackers. Maybe her parents were right, and she should really never feed him at the table. I haven't had time to train him. Or, well, Miss Griswold said, and paused her lips. Since he's must do a thing, I suppose it would be all right if he had one. She hoisted herself up onto her cane, picking out two crackers, and made her way down to the gate. Is he going to snap them out of my hand? Emily's soul wouldn't blame him if he did, but she shook her head. No, no, ma'am. He has good meals. Well, we'll see about that, Miss Griswold said, but held out one of the crackers, and Emily was surprised to see her hand shaking. Zack grinned at her, set the tree, crunching it up, and then tilted her head indignantly. I suppose he wants the other one, Miss Griswold said, sounding much more cross than she actually looked at the moment. Emily nodded. Yes, ma'am, I think he does. Miss Griswold gave him the other salad, and after eating it, Zack leaned his head against Miss Griswold's arm in a friendly way and wiggling his tail. Miss Griswold grimly, or just positive, smiled a little and gave him a brisk pat. Looking at the two of them for the first time, Emily didn't just see him mean. Yeah, uh, no, Looking at the two of them for the first time, Emily didn't just see a mean, angry lady. She saw what Zack had already seen, that maybe this was a lonely person who, for whatever reasons, really didn't know how to be around other people. Aunt, thank you for the crackers, she said. He liked them. Miss, well, Miss Grinchfield said with a dismeasured with her hand. Don't let, don't let's, don't let's make, don't let's make a failure case about it. Off you go now. Emily nodded and winked quickly. After she got home, she fed Zach again because he was always hungry. Then she sat at the kitchen table, drinking some lemonade and watching her mother make a salad to go with a spinach lasagna her father had put in the oven a little while earlier. Did Miss Griswold lose to her dog? She asked. Her mother started chopping tomatoes and thought about that. Yes, they had a little collar mix. I think her name was Monago or something, but that was years ago. Why? I don't know. I just wondering. Emily really couldn't imagine Miss Griswold naming the dog after a flower. Was that like it if she had decided to call him Benton or Buttercup or something very doubtful? Was she always mean like when you and Lord and Dad first moved there here? Her mother shook her head. No, I wouldn't say she was friendly, really, but it was in that normal, mean way. She used to be a very accurate her in town, but well, things changed. Evelyn had had so many wild rumors. For as long as she could remember, that she had no idea if any of them were true. she did she uh really kill her husband? She asked. Her mother looked startled and almost dropped the cutting board. What would you ask a terrible thing like that? That was a much more dramatic reaction than she had expected. Embryo Shogunate. I don't know. I just wondering what mean to set the table, or like make a salad. Emily was on a finger. You are not going to avoid the question by offering to be helpful, her mother said, and then paused. Although, yes, I would appreciate it if you peeled those carrots and maybe a cucumber too. Emily opened the drawer where they kept the untouchables and took out an old vegetable peeler with a wooden handle, which had belonged to her father's, which would have belonged to her father's grandmother's back in like the 30s, but still worked really well. He told you that, her mother asked. Emily shrugged. Well, people are not just Bobby. She added quickly. Always said no. You know, darn that cruise and stuff. Her mother signed and took a bottle of freshly pressed over oil and some blasphemy virgin Virgil from one of the Panthers sheriffs. It's a small town, and rumors get started. They don't that doesn't make them true. Emily had shown that she couldn't be a moral, or she would be in jail, right? But something bad happened, she said. Her mother nodded. It was right around Christmas. Oh, more than 10 years ago, because you were tiny. I think they were driving home from a holiday party, but the roads were slippery and they crashed on a terrible curve right before the big bridge. Part of Bailey's core consisted of small islands, which was connected into the main part of town only by bridges. They were known, respectively, as the Big Bridge, the Little Bridge, and the Cobblestone Bridge. In some cases, the bridge was only accessible during low tide, and the people who lived on them were stuck unless they could boat over to the mainland. Mr. Pellaby heard about the accident his scammer. Her mother went on, and he and your father went out to see if they could help. You had an ear infection and were running a fever, so I stayed here with you. Miss Pellaby's daughter was a local police officer, and so that probably spent a lot of time listening to that scanner to make sure she was safe. So Miss Griswold's husband was, mm, you know, Emily asked Akabota. Her mother nodded. Yes, it was awful, and she was injured, and she's been on the car cane ever since. She was driving, so I'm sure she blames herself. She never been the same. That made sense. Evelyn closed her eyes and imagined a terrible winter incident with Miss Griswold being carried into the ambulance and everyone standing nearby looking very grave. The technician must have worked because that, who was lying on a towel near the back of the door, sat up straight for a few seconds before setting it down again. Her mother shook her head. Sometimes I will almost swear he was listening to us. But you, this was the perfect moment to tell her mother about ours what she strongly suspected. But Emily found herself feeling shy and sarcastic. She wanted to tell her, but maybe she should wait until she was able to figure it out more clearly. Oh, yeah, Emily said, and flipping Zach a piece of carrot. Was he crumbling it up? It really does seem that way, doesn't it? Chapter 22. Bobby came over the next day, and they spent most of the afternoon out on the deck, taking turns throwing a tennis ball for Zach to fence. Emily had known that he was finally started to feel well enough to play games when he pointed and brought a ball to her that morning and dropped it right in her lap. They got hungry after a while and went inside to get some cookies and juice and get Zach and couple, couple of milk buns, which they were at it. Josephine appearing in the kitchen at once, and Emily found a couple of toner cat treats for her. She had told anyone about some of the things that had been happening lately, and since Bobby was the kind of person who usually had on okay, whatever, cool reaction to most things, maybe he would be the ideal person to confide in. So she decided to bring up the subject she had been avoiding with everyone else. Do you believe in ESP? She asked, simply kind of rally. Bobby Shorgana sucking another chocolate chip cookies into his mouth. You mean reading minds and all that? Yeah, I guess so. He followed. I guess it's like fake. That wasn't really a helpful answer. Has it ever happened to you? Emily asked. Bobby shrugging again. Not really. Like, does it count? Does it count if the phone rings and you pretty sure you know who it is? Not if you have caller ID, Emily said. Bobby laughed. And not if you were like accepting the call. That was true, too. You know how my mother gets all errors and superstitions and everything? She totally believes in all that stuff, Bobby said. She says it runs in families, and he stopped. It was actually quiet for a few seconds. Yeah, maybe it runs in my family, Emily said quickly, to try and smooth over the silence. Bobby looked guilty. I didn't mean to, you know. It's fine, Emily said. It's fine. In fact, it was the sort of thing that happening all the time. And if it wasn't a big deal, it might have bothered her a little coming from someone other than Bobby or her parents or other people she knew really well. But even then, It was just the kind of thing people and said without thinking. Her cousin Mike was blind, and during a conversation with him, Emily had once said, "See what I mean?" She had felt completely awful about it, but luckily, it had thought it was funny. It was too, it was still too quiet in the room. Yeah, I wondered about them, Emily said, finally, and I wish I knew who they were and what they're like, but I have parents and traditions and pieces of history and all of those things that made a family. So it's really not. Just forget it. Anyway, it's the ESP thing I'm worried about. Bobby looked puzzled. What are you? Like reading minds and stuff. Like, can you read my mind? Emily looking at the door to make sure neither of her parents were listening, especially since her mother had gone out running and might pop in through the back door any minute now. Promise you won't tell anyone, okay? She said, because it's going to sound strange. Hey, cool, Bobby said. You can read minds. Hey, can you teach me? If I could read your mind, I never had to study for tests or anything again. I could just, like, bell the answers. Emily shook her head. No, it's, uh, well, Zach, Bobby glancing down at Zach, who was asleep on a beach towel Emily had spread out on the liminal. What? You mean that's all physical and stuff? Well, now, Caleb, Emily nodded. I think both of us are. Wow, Bobby says, sounding impressive. That is wicked excited. Like how? Where should she begin? Like, when I was dreaming about drowning, he was actually drowning, Emily said, and I felt like I had to go outside even though it was raining like crazy. Bobby floated. Couldn't you have just, you know, guessing that, or like hell, bark or something? Yeah, what? That's what I thought, Emily said, but it keeps happening, and I don't know. I think it's real. I could smell the medicine they were giving him at the vet's office. Even thought I wasn't in there. I know what food he likes and the kind of boy he wanted. And I don't know if it's really cool or totally creepy. Wow, way real. Bobby followed again. Is it scary? Scary wasn't quite the right word. It kind of when I first figured it out, Emily said, because I was feeling all this stuff that wasn't even happening to me. Like I really was drowning, but I was right there like, in my room. So it didn't make sense. Huh? He does it, you know, talk or anything. He does, Bobby asked. You know, like E.T. Emily shook her head. No, which was good because then she'd think she was really losing it. He sends me ideas, sort of. Like, I think something I know I wasn't thinking. Then it turns out to be because he's trying to tell me something. I was thinking how me Miss Griswold was, and he was thinking that she needed us to be nice to her. And it's almost like having an argument, but precious. Wow, Bobby said. That's wicked freaky. Emily grinned. Far out, man. Bobby nodding in complete seriousness. Wicked far out. What do your parents think? Emily gave him a chivalrous look. I haven't told them yet. I want to be sure it's not just consciousness and stuff. Bobby nodded again and glancing at Zach, who seems to be half listening, but mostly napping. Hey, maybe he's an alien or an angel or something. Something all magical and stuff, like Penteline this Morris. Emily looked at Zach this brother and then patted his head. He waggled his tail, but didn't move otherwise until she offered him a piece of the cookie, which he gulped down before closing his eyes again. No, I think he's a dog, a regular dog. I mean, we just connect somehow, huh? Bobby said again and then grimly, that is so cool. Do you think he was like sent to you or something, or picked you for a reason? Bobby was one of her very close friends in the world, if not the coolest, so there was no reason not to tell him the truth. Emily nodded. Yeah, I don't know what he did. I don't know what the reason is or why it's me, but yeah, I do think that. Wow, you're really lucky, Bobby said, looking very impressed. Who knows what kind of cool stuff might happen because of all of this? Emily nodded. I know. So far, it's pretty great. In fact, it might be the best thing that had ever happened to her. After Bobby's big brother came over to pick him up, Emily went out to the backyard to draw the tennis ball for Zach some more. It seems as thought, even with his cast, he would play for 20 hours straight, but her arm got tired after a while, so they headed back inside to see what was for them. She found her mother sitting at the kitchen table, going over the bunch of bills and other papers. Are we going to eat soon? Emily asked. In about an hour, her mother said, suddenly distracted. I'd like to finish this first and get it out of the way. Emily shrugged and opened the refrigerator to find a snack, despite all the food she and Bobby had eaten during the afternoon. She was still pretty hungry, just as she was opening a peace yogurt. The phone rang. I get it, Emily said, and her mother nodded without really looking out for what she was doing. The number was from Oceanside Animal Hospital, and Emily picked up, ensuring that they wanted to come for Zach's next appointment or something like that. Hello, she asked. Hi, Emily. Dr. Kasanowski said, his voice rather stringent. This is Dr. K. Could I speak to one of the parents for a minute? That didn't sound good at all. What's wrong? Emily said uneasily. Is something wrong with one of Zach's tests? Or, no, Dr. Kasanowski said, it's nothing like that. It's just that I don't know how to tell you this. I don't know how to tell you this, but some people just call the office and, well, they're looking for their dog. Oh, 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 oh. Emily's legs suddenly felt weak, and she had to grab the side of the console to keep her balance. I, uh, just a minute. She turned towards the table, covering the receiver with her hand. Mom, it's Dr. K. He says someone wants that. Her mother's eyes widened, and then she quickly got up and took the phone from her. As Emily listened to her mother's side of the conversation, she started crying hard. Zach, who had been noisily drinking water from his desk, twirling over, and Emily sat down on the floor to hug him, crying even harder. Just as her mother was hanging it up, her father came from the den. What's going on? He asked. That was Dr. K, Emily's mother said, and looked at them miserable. Zach's on a car to calm him, and they want to come over to also tomorrow. and they want to come over to Oceanside tomorrow to pick him up. That will be the last. That's that I have read that on chapter 20 and 22 in this book. Now tomorrow will be the final chapter of this book called The Whisper, The Rescue. Till then, I'm Joseph Kerr. I'm gonna read this book tomorrow at 6 o'clock, right here on the Joseph Kerr Show. Until then, take care and God bless.